Vienna's district coats of arms aren't great. We've determined that. In the main video, we didn't really have time to go over their intricacies, good and bad, one by one though. In this video, we do. Doesn't mean I'm gonna describe the details of every single armorial element and interpret the symbolic meaning of the red grasshopper in the second field from the left. A quick critique for every individual coat of arms will fit in though. Every district coat of arms of Vienna ranked from best to worst. Here we go. First, inner city. Who'd have thunk it? The inner city's coat of arms is by far the best Vienna has to offer. In contrast to the other ones, it's properly old. Not 20th century, we're talking Middle Ages. While other coats of arms try hard to make some kind of historic connection, one that's been in use for like 700 years has no problem with that. About the form itself, there's not much to say. White cross, red shield. Works great from a distance and is recognized in Austria and beyond as the undisputed symbol of Vienna. Although it's old as heck, it hasn't been the official coat of arms of Vienna for all that time. For the longest time, the city's coat of arms was a black shield with a golden, sometimes one-headed, sometimes two-headed eagle borrowed from the Habsburgs. The cross shield had its place on the eagle's breast for quite some time, but as a standalone coat of arms, it's really only been in use for about 100 years. And not even that without interruption. So much for that. Let's carry on, or we'll be here until tomorrow. Second, simmering. And there we go with the shield splitting. Doesn't help it legibility wise, but I just gotta point out how well balanced its colors and subjects are. Using text is usually frowned upon, but in this case, the S makes quite a nice impression, especially in comparison to what still lies ahead. The crossed fish, also pretty fun. Usually it's swords or keys that are crossed, so crossed fish, very cool. Third, otterkring. Yes, I know, I put a 3-piece shield before a halved one, but despite it being pretty well recognizable, design and color-wise, two things are problematic. First, there's a shield within a shield on the left, which is just an enormous waste of space, even more so when the shield wears a hat. Probably derives from the heraldic usage of helmets or hats, which are often put above shields, but when the subject of a shield is a shield with a cross wearing a hat with a cross, that's a bit ridiculous. Second, the tree and the grass in the right part of the shield are much more detailed than the stuff in the other half, which means they just don't match. Were both halves nice and simple, it would be a much better coat of arms. Fourth, Bridget's Meadow. 2 parts, both clear as can be, but the subjects. The anchor looks not too shabby, but it would be way better taking up all the shield space. Instead, it's banished to the upper half by 5 stars and a tongue. Those are both symbols of St. John of Nepomuk, which is fine, but a tongue on a shield? I don't know. Fifth, Country Road. Now we're getting into over-detailed territory. The subjects, especially the strawberry and the jumping goats, are pretty nice, but there's just too much stuff coming with it. The grass doesn't need extra strokes to be recognizable. Actually, there doesn't need to be grass on there at all. Same for the bush between the goats, the 2 flowers, and the leaves of the strawberry. For St. Nicky on the left, they could have just used the top of his staff or his hat, instead of putting the whole dude in there. That is, by the way, not the last time we'll be confronted with Christian imagery. The district coats of arms are full to the brim with saints and crosses and all that stuff. In a time when the church isn't anywhere near the level of importance it had centuries ago, one might maybe question usage of those subjects. Sixth, Leopoldtown. Again split in 3, again that godforsaken lawn no one needs, again stars and tongue for John of Nepomuk. He's on a few of these coats of arms because bridge saint, looking after you so you don't drown. Upper left, district name giver Saint Leo, again unnecessarily depicted as a whole person instead of just using his flag. 5 golden eagles on a blue ground. Seventh, Whedon. Now it gets really bad. This is all so small and fiddly that those willow leaves in the upper left appear more black than green from all those border strokes. The spire upper right also cries "make me simpler," and whatever's going on in the bottom part, one can only guess. Let me quickly take inventory. We have a well, 2 saints to the left and right of it, and above the well in a cloud floats Saint Leo with a church and his flag in either hand. No further questions. 8. Lord's Alls. Actually pretty simple, but the bottom right is tragically drowning in details. Even single blades of grass are visible, but of course the leaves of both trees are merging with the blue background. The trees generally look poorly. Could use a bit of water maybe. The bunch of grapes on top, the way it's pulled so wide, looks weird too. I don't get out that often, but I know that's not what grapes look like. And despite the widest bunch of grapes in history, there's still way too much space wasted on the sides. 9th, Favorita. Back to those many-piece shields again. That alone isn't great, but at least all parts are nicely filled. The fountain and the Maltese cross are really good subjects actually, but the others again have lots of details and then some more. Especially with the structure in the center, every line's crammed in there without any consideration for the whole. That, in the upper left, St. John stands in front of the inner city coat of arms doesn't help either. 10th, Floret's Village. Again, too much stuff. Again, the extremely important blades of grass. 4 trees, one of which is deciduous, extremely important. Then the thing on the left, where I could check online what it should be, but I'm just gonna call it mother and child in a golden blanket bound with shackles. That's normal, sure. And then we also have 2 letters, which completes this work of overstuffedness. 11th, new build. The center shield pretty cool, even if a bit over detailed. A moon doesn't need a face, but meaning wise pretty problematic nowadays. Cause cross over crescent pretty clearly expresses Christian superiority over Islam, which is historically understandable since Vienna survived 2 sieges by the Ottomans, but in present day that's pretty hard on the nose, especially when about 15% of Vienna's population is Muslim. Other than that, upper left, there's again the cross shield of the inner city in a slightly different design, plus 4 birdies, one of them terribly cut off by the center shield, and on the upper right, Saint Nicky holding a fish, which doesn't look great, but is pretty funny. 12th, Pensing. In the center shield, 2 letters, so big fat minus there, upper right. Note the extremely detailed roof tiles, lower left, St. Mary with the baby Jesus, lower right, a tree with a fence before it, backyard or something. Big problem here are the completely different levels of detail of the parts. Center, the imperial orb, that's the sphere with the cross on it, is fairly simple, but the blades of grass and those pesky roof tiles are done with extreme precision, which just doesn't work. 13th, Josephtown. Upper left, you might have noticed we've already had that one, and you are right. New build has the same subject, as they both share Lark Field. In the center, name giver St. Joe with baby Jesus and a mutated flower bouquet. Lower right, strikingly simple, Austria's classic red, white, red shield, if only they were always so clear. Of course, there are also some overly detailed blades of grass, and what's also quite funny, the lady on the lower left, floating on a cloud, holds an imperial orb bigger than her head. 14th, All's Ground. In the center shield, another repetition. The magpie is also used in Josephtown, but lots of other action going on as well. Upper center, there's a sheep that's either joining the Crusades or volunteering at the Red Cross. Right next to it, another sheep, next to a provocatively dressed young lad. On a staff, a banner with text because there's no other way to express things in a coat of arms. Lower right, we have 4 trees, cause 1 is too few. Lower center, there's Leopoldstown's sacred stag again, and lower left, the apocalypse. 15th, Merry Help. Go straight for the meta level, because in the center, shield within a shield, in which there's a ship with a flag with an eagle with a shield on its breast. Can't go much more convoluted. That the dude is the same height as the ship doesn't even matter. Upper right, there's St. Nicky once more, district coat of arms regular. Lower right, there's the really nice shield of Gump Village with 3 lilies in gold and black, but once again cut off by the center shield. The 2 parts on the left also manage the feat of repeating the same subject. Adult Jesus on the cross right next to one another. Generally, it seems no one really cared too much about repeating the same stuff over and over. 16th, Margaret's. Center, there's Saint Maggie on a dragon, which is not the last dragon we'll be seeing, believe you me. Upper left, Saint Nicky again. Upper right, a Roman soldier, and looks like he's pouring a bucket of milk over St. Maggie's head. Bottom and lower right are pretty nice and clear, as should be, but lower left, we've got an extremely fiddly drawn castle and a unicorn rushing from it. For anyone keeping count, that's unicorn number 2. 17th, Danube Town. Catches your eye with its incredible mediocrity. Nothing terrible, nothing good. Most interesting is probably the wing center right, even though the chess squares right through it are a bit much. The tree on top isn't just boring, it's also seemingly drawn every single bough at a time. Upper left, Those bonsai trees on a green background are a mystery to me, as is the thing center left on top of St. Nicky's staff. 18th, wearing. Again, pretty mediocre, ranking so badly just because of the bottom part. Two dudes carrying a gargantuan bunch of grapes. The thing's big enough to crush you, for God's sake. Even worse, the center shield is placed in a way that makes it seem like it stands on top of the wooden bars. Other than that, there are two saints with the same veggies in hand, and once again, adult Jesus H. Christ on the big T. 19th, Meidling. Hurts my heart to pull the lovely coat of arms of Rush Village into that, black cross, white ground, but what can you do? The raven, the wheel, moon and star are okay, but the center... We have some Latin text, again there's writing instead of drawing, and the separation line of the center shield does not line up with the one of the outer shield, making the whole thing look like it slipped a little. Why it's like that, I do not know. On top of that, the center shield covers part of the black cross, but in such an awkward way that there's a small white field left over. 20th, Dobling. Already discussed in the main video, overstuffed to the max, confusing, intricate. Only thing worth noting, apart from the omnipresent St. Nicky in the lower left, is that there's repetition once again. Both in the upper left and lower center, there's a dragon getting beat up. But wait, one more thing. Both in the center and the lower right, there are grapes. What a masterpiece. 21st, leasing. Record holder, most subjects, 10 in total. Beside that, lower right, the miniature trees and the extremely intricately drawn castle including windows, although you can't really make out much anymore. Center shield they felt it wise to add numbers to, just because, but the absolute pinnacle, center left, district part 7 shepherds. 7 shepherds. 22nd, heatsink. Generally, kinda okay. Those hatchets in the upper left are fine. The sacred stag, bottom right's also back again. Upper right, there's a saint chilling in the nice thermal water. And bottom left is stork ripping itself to shreds to feed the children. Everything normal. But what on earth is happening in the center? Don't know what to say there. Artistic license and such, yeah sure. But an apparition in a tree while a few dudes just stand around? That's too much. And just like that, we arrive at the worst district coat of arms of Vienna, as officially determined by yours truly. 23rd, Rudolph's home, Five House. And there's one reason for that. Subject-wise, it's not that bad. Not great, but everything is recognizable, not too crazily detailed. However, it seems no one actually thought too much about how to place all the subjects on the shield in a way that makes any kind of sense. With other overstuffed coats of arms, there's at least an attempt to place subjects in a way to use all of the available real estate. Sometimes it works better, sometimes not so much. Here, it looks like no one actually even tried. That stag, which they didn't want to scrap, but also didn't place in a spot of the shield that actually worked, just stands around, completely lost in that white expanse. So much indifference towards one's creation undoubtedly deserves the last place. And there's your 23 district coats of arms. That's it. Goodbye.